Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Talk Kashrus, presented by the Kashrus Awareness Project in conjunction with Torah Anytime. Today I am privileged to be joined by Rabbi Sholem Fishbane, Executive Director of ACO and the Kashrus Administrator of the Chicago Rabbinical Council. Thank you, Rabbi Fishbane, for joining us once again.
Thank you for having me.
So, we talk about kashrus on this program, and we talk about ingredients, we talk about supervision, we talk about systems, but there's one component of kashrus that is very often overlooked, and it's a unique concern, and maybe even surprising to people, because it's not in the, what we would call the traditional part of Yeridea that people study and learn when they're learning the halachas of kashrus, and I'm referring to avodah zarah. It was brought to our attention that there are actually concerns of avodah zarah when it comes to certifying kosher food. Right. Now, you're very well aware of this. Give us somewhat of a summary of what the concern is, how people can be cognizant of it, and what they could do, once they learn about the facts.
Great point. That is very, very true. And what most consumers don't understand behind the scenes, our bezdin sometimes are dealing with avodah zarah shilas, in which I would say a lot of people that learn kashrus skip right over that, like how could that be negaya? I'll give you one recent example that came to our attention. We certify a company that was making eye drops. Eye drops. Now, we used to ask companies, why would you want a hashgacha on something that seemingly doesn't want hashgacha? But we stopped asking. You know why? Because primarily they understand that kosher is very good for marketing. It gives people an assurance. And it's, well, we want it anyway. We said, okay, if you want it, then there's no kashrus concerns, we're okay with that. So we granted hashgacha to this company that was making eye drops. And it came to my attention once I saw the actual box. There was all sorts of references to Yashka and all sorts of things that, oh my gosh, what's going on over here? So I asked them to come into our office and we had a meeting. And I have to tell you something, in all my years of training, this really took me by surprise. It turns out that not only is he an eye doctor, but he's also a priest. And he has a deep feeling that the reason why the world is in a sorry state that it is, he goes back to the beginning of Bereshis, Genesis, where Adam Harishon ran away from Hashem, and the way you have to come back is through seeing. And get this, the way we're going to come back, he knows, is by Bayis Shlishi. Bayis Shlishi. And he knows that when the Jews build Bayis Shlishi, the concept of Para Aduma, this guy is telling me this to me. Para Aduma, you're all going to be purified, but when you go into the mikvah, you close your eyes. And your whole body won't be pure because your eyes won't get the mikvah water. And how is the Beis HaMikdash going to be pure? You hear what's going on? So he created this eye wash that is going to be purified through, holiness, and the entire purpose is for when the Klal Yisrael builds a Bayis Shlishi, we're going to use, and therefore he needs a hechsher because it has to be kosher in order to be. You couldn't make this up.
You cannot make it up.
You cannot make this up. So I said to him, so how do you make it holy? Besides that, we're giving hashgacha in it. Oh, I say, he says he takes a certain waters from Ethiopia that the king dipped in, and then he pours it in. Then he says a 3-page prayer. I said, what type of waters? That wasn't the Shiloh of avodah zarah. I said, let me see the prayer. I looked at the prayer. Oh gosh. So I gave it over to our bezdin. And our bezdin looked at it, studied it, had several meetings with him. And the bottom line is they told me, it was as if he took out, Chelik Gimel of Yeridea, Hilchas avodah zarah, and found every chumrah to make sure this avodah zarah, and he wrote it into his prayer. It was like, there's no shayla, this is mamish avodah zarah. So we had to tell him that not only can it not be certified, but all this, thankfully nothing had hit the market yet. Mm-hmm. All the products had to be taken off our hechsher, all that. That's one example that didn't even hit the market.
A wild
example. But there are many, many others. We travel a lot, so we have factories in India. So in India, if you know that the cows are sacred there, okay? What I mean by sacred is like if there's a cow crossing the street, everything stops. That's why traffic in India is horrendous, because they don't shecht or kill the cows, and the cows are sacred. So there's cows all over, and there's traffic jams galore. Yet it's okay, according to their culture or religion, to take milk from the cow. And there are some hashgachas that actually certify products with milk from India. So I ask you, what do you think? If it's holy, if it's avodah zarah, what would be the heter to give such a... Now, with CRC, we do not do that because we rely on, Chol of Yisrael, Lefi Rav Moshe, and because there are many behemoths tmeos there being milked, then we wouldn't give hechsher. But there are some hashgachas that rely on the pri chodosh, which is not like Rav Moshe, but it's more if the behemoths tmeos milk is more expensive. So they do rely. So what would be the heter for such a thing? So where do you go for such, right? Where do you go? So that's where the Rabbanim that live in these countries become very valuable. And we spend some time talking to them and understanding. And basically the way it works is that the cows themselves are not avodah zarah where you bow to the cow. Rather, they're sacred, so that they carry, neshamas, whatever they believe. I'm not bakant in their exact religion. But the point is that it didn't make it akrovas avodah zarah to the point where the milk is out. So that's another example. I have to tell you a story, not related to kashrus, but it's just a great story. Remember the tumult with the sheitlich many years ago?
Sure.
That they were bringing it to the Indians and they were bringing it to avodah zarah. So I was one time in a Dunkin' Donuts, certified kosher Dunkin' Donuts, and I was waiting to talk to the owner. The owner actually was from Indian descent, and he was with his family. And they're talking amongst themselves, and I'm standing outside and I overhear the conversation. I'll listen to, we have Yiddish tumults, coffee room tumults.
Sure.
So they have coffee room tumults. Maybe, I don't know what they drink. Okay? And their tumult at the time was, you hear what's going on? In the temples that we thought our daughters are going to give the hair to the temple in India, they're not even making it into the temple. As soon as it's caught, it's taken off to the side to be sold to the wig industry. Chutzpah, they're going on. I was like, this is the greatest news ever.
Exactly.
So, that's just a great little story. But there are many other things that come up, certainly with drinks. I know Rabbi Niehaus spoke on this great program you have. He talked about sake, which is rice wine from Japan. I've been in Japan, and I remember I was in the factory. I couldn't find a room to daven mincha. Every room had a getchke, okay? That's what they do. Before the production of the day, they bring over and they say something to the getchke. At the end of the day, the same thing. So that's the shaila. I mean, if you go through the sugyas of avodah zarah, it seems to be not a problem because they're not actually taking the sake in front and then using that sake to be served. There's various halachas. Another is Trappist beer, which I believe Rabbi Niehaus mentioned. That's very interesting because that's being made on the it's called the abbey. It's by the monasteries. It has to be made for the monasteries, and there's three laws to be called Trappist beer. One is that all products have to be made immediately in the surrounding of the abbey, which is chotzer in halacha. The production must be carried under the supervision of the monks or nuns. And finally, the profits are intended for the needs of the monastery, which, again, if you learn in Gemara avodah zarah, goes through various things. So if you go through, there's something called betoiva, which the Mechaber and the Ramah talk about. Is this called betoiva? Because you are supporting the monastery, which is pretty much betoiva. There's takroivis. Is it takroivis l'chayr or not? The location, we couldn't get into the abbeys, but that's what Google Maps are for. We were able to look over, find out exactly where they're making the Trappist beer, how close they are, and it's pretty bechutzer. It's a problem. Is it called Mahana because it's giving and of course the overall shaila of Christianity today is shituf or not. We follow the Noid de Yehuda that it is. So, if you go through the list, and I'm obviously not going to go through all Hilchos Avodah Zarah at the moment, but if you go through the list, it doesn't look good. But I must tell you that the last parat seems to be the saving grace, if to buy Trappist beer, and that is retail stores. In other words, the Ramah talks about that if it goes through a third party, it's talking about Malchus, the government, if it goes through a third party, you're not directly giving it to the monks or for the monastery, that seems to be a heter, that's okay. So if you would go into a regular liquor store and you would buy the Trappist beer, and there's a certain logo it's officially Trappist, that seems to be okay because it's not going directly. But if you're traveling, most of them are in Belgium. If you're traveling and you want to buy one directly from, not so pashut, not so pashut. And I must tell you, I found out recently, believe it or not, here in America, there's a huge industry of honey being made by abbeys and monasteries, and that helps support them. And be honest, we're researching this now.
Wow.
Does that hit the market, or if you're buying it? And it's in a lot of America. It's a pretty big market. And I was talking to someone. He says, I was talking about the Trappist beer. He says, I'm a big honey farm guy. Did you know that they do a lot of business? And oh my gosh! So just the last few days we've been researching, so it's a big deal.
Now, the Trappist beer, what makes it different than traditional beer? That people go, especially these connoisseurs of beer, like it.
We got to find a connoisseur. Beer to me, I'm still like, I barely get it by a Sholem Zacher, personally. I don't know what's the chashivas of it, but it certainly is chashivas. I know of 14 facilities in Belgium that's actually an authentic Trappist product. That's at least in Belgium. I guess it's really authentic the way they've been doing it for
years,
hundreds or maybe even thousands of years. Some of these places, and people appreciate that. So that would be that. And there's many other sorts of shilohs that come up. We just had a restaurant recently that has a Japanese scenario going on in the restaurant. They're trying to, so we were dealing with the shiloh because they were putting up samurai warriors.
Oh, really?
And the
like
question,
figurines?
So our Rav Bezdin went in and cut off an ear, made them sure that people wouldn't assume it was a Buddha, whatever it is. So again, Hilchos Avodah Zarah. Who's thinking about that? The mashgiach that learns Hilchos Melicha and
Taruvas, right?
And but it really shows what it goes into running a kosher station today. The need for a very strong bezdin, a need for Talmidei Chachamim.
Right.
As well as practical, and knowing how to use Google Maps. So,
Rabbi Fishbane, that's absolutely fascinating, and we look forward, if you ever have any of those other interesting stories, like the one about the eye drops, that's unbelievable. Yeah. I think since we started this program, I think that one takes the cake. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.